Choo choo! All aboard, folks! As we're headed to Highlander Academy in Blue Archive Global as part of the new event, Highlander Railroad Runaway Incident, and the train disappeared. And with it marks the long-anticipated arrival of our Shupogaki twin wives, Hikari and Nozomi as the new limited 3-star units, as well as Aoba, the new Highlander student and the event's welfare unit. In this video, I'll be reviewing Nozomi and Aoba, while Hikari has already been reviewed in a separate video, link in the pinned comment. Also, I don't often do this, but reply below with your best whoa comments towards our 3 Kanis. I could do with a laugh and perfect time since we've got 3 cute and funny girls coming this week. So without further ado, here is a short review of our 2 new Kanis. Fellas, we have to start off with the younger of the Shupogaki twins. It's the damn Kusogaki in need of severe correction who absolutely loves trains. It's Nozomi. Listen, while Hikari is my favorite twin by a slight edge, I've very much grown to love Nozomi too. For one, I really like her long twin ponytails. For some reason at first I wasn't too big on it, but as time went on, I grew fond of it, and now I think it really suits a goddamn Kusogaki like her. In fact, she's one of the few students to have the classic twin tails, so it is quite refreshing. Plus, the giant fringe covering her forehead is a nice touch too. Not only that, I also like her bratty, mischievous personality. This damn brat! Looking down on us adults and calling us noobs. Whoa, that's it. I'll make sure you learn your lesson. I'm gonna show you what real railing looks like. You're gonna feel the full correction on my train, you goddamn gaki. Whoa! Her bratty personality is probably her biggest appeal for many senseis, and it has fueled us Kani lovers for months. Not to mention her laugh has become as iconic as Mutsuki's. That combined with her teasing has made her one of my favorite brats in the game. However, Nozomi's gap moe of actually being a mature, responsible student who loves her job, as seen in her beautiful L2D, is probably what really sold me on her, cause I really appreciate seeing a new side of her. It definitely gives her more depth as a character instead of being just a Shupogaki, and she really reminds me of a loving, responsible wife who loves to tease you but will also pamper you once you come home from a hard day's work. Plus, in her L2D, it's really calming sitting in a train with her, basking in the sunset glow. And it gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling inside, especially with Nozomi being a sweet angel towards us. Man, I'm in love. So, what kind of student is she? Well, she is a limited sonic DPS striker with red armor, whose terrain moves are as follows: D combat power in urban terrains, B combat power in field, and A combat power indoors. She also rocks the standard DPS equipment set of hat, pin, and watch. So, is Nozomi any good? Well, she is mainly a powerful sonic single-target DPS unit who specializes in indoor terrains. So much so that she will be the strongest purple single-target damage dealer in the game until Swimsuit Mika arrives. I'll talk more about the comparison between the two in a later section. For now though, Nozomi has a fairly simple kit that focuses on buffing herself to deal a ton of purple damage, with her EX being her primary damage outlet. With it, she can expand 4 costs to deal tons of purple damage to a selected enemy in a straight line as a result of its massive 1045% multiplier at max level skill, while dealing small AoE damage to other enemies within range of that line, having a way smaller 147% multiplier. Her EX's power can also be enhanced by consuming up to 2 extra skill costs, with each additional cost increasing its damage by a fixed 25%, and all cost increase/decrease effects are calculated using her EX's base cost. As you can tell, her EX is extremely powerful, as it acts as both a single target and an AoE attack, though it's mainly considered the former since its AoE damage isn't a lot due to its very low multiplier. Plus, keep in mind that the AoE hit does not affect the selected target, just any enemies that are in the way, and the designated target takes damage only from the single target hit. The train may also take a while to hit depending on how far the enemy is, and cause it moves in a straight line, if the enemy moves out of the way, her EX can miss as it does not automatically lock on to the target. Regardless, Nozomi's EX is still really strong, especially the single target attack cause it can deal a ton of purple damage. And her AoE is also useful in certain situations where there are other enemies. Plus, her EX's damage can be further boosted by expending 1 to 2 extra skill costs to upgrade it, turning it into either a 5 or 6 cost EX. Again, each additional skill cost used increases her EX's damage by 25%, allowing her to boost his damage by a maximum of 50% after using both extra costs, and her single target attack will deal roughly 1306% and 1567.5% damage at 5 and 6 costs respectively. Thus, you'd ideally want to always use a 6 cost EX in order to fully maximize her damage, as her targeted attacks becomes insanely strong, being able to shred through bosses. Plus, while it can be quite expensive, this is where her twin sister Hikari comes in, as they pair well together since she can essentially negate her additional EX costs, cutting it all the way down to 4. So when using Nozomi, it is best to use up the 2 extra skill costs to fully enhance her EX, while pairing her with Hikari as well as other buffers to not only decrease her enhanced EX's cost, but also additionally amplify its massive damage. Next, with her sub skill, she is able to deal guaranteed crit damage with all her attacks, and her attack speed as well as her crit damage is passively increased by 25.5%. She is the second student after regular Mika to receive this innate ability, not counting in Dress Kayako and Saori, whose guaranteed crits only affect parts of their kit, and also one of only 3 units in the game who has it on their sub skill, with it being the best part of a kit cause it basically turns her into the normal Mika for purple armored content before swimsuit Mika comes, allowing her to constantly deal tons of good damage to the enemy, especially with her EX, without needing to worry about crit molding, though there will still be accuracy or stability issues that you might encounter. Not to mention, this means you don't need to use crit buffs on her, and you can focus on increasing her damage output with crit damage buffs. Aside from that, the decent passive crit damage buff she receives on her sub is great too. It increases her DPS, and it can stack with other unit sub-skills crit damage buffs, while the attack speed buff helps her launch her normal attacks a little faster, assisting in proccing her basic quicker. Speaking of which, her basic skill increases her sonic effectiveness by 53.9% at level 10 skill for a decent 26 seconds every 12 normal attacks. So after every second reload, she will trigger this skill. And with the help of her attack speed buff from her sub skill, she should activate this around every 30 seconds. Her enhanced and enhanced skill plus at UE40 increase her attack and crit damage respectively, both of which hugely contribute to improving her damage output, and the latter can be especially useful for difficult endgame content, so her UE40 can be a very good investment. Finally, her indoor terrain mode is upgraded from S to SS, which as a DPS unit can be another worthwhile investment for those who plan to fully tackle harder indoor content. Overall, Nozomi is a very powerful sonic DPS unit who can deal tons of damage with her EX, thanks to her guaranteed crit, which is her main appeal, and the other abilities in her kit. So, where can Nozomi be used in? Well, while she is the strongest indoor sonic single target damage dealer in global for now, Swimsuit Mika was released 2 months ago during the 4.5 anniversary, who is currently the strongest purple DPS unit in JP, as her extremely high damage output plus synergy with the other Swimsuit Tea Party girls have made her the premier choice for most purple urban and field content, and there's a possibility that she could even replace Nozomi in indoor terrain raids despite her D combat power. However, it's still too early to jump to conclusions yet, as we've only gotten 2 field purple grand assaults since Mika's release, so it'd be interesting to see if she can really dethrone Nozomi, the current purple indoor queen, in the future. In my opinion, Nozomi should still fare fine, as not only do they have different armor types, meaning they will probably be effective against different bosses, but you can also just use them in separate teams if you need to. Plus, Nozomi's S to SS affinity in indoor terrains should give her an edge. Since her release, Nozomi has been used in a number of purple armored content, such as specific purple joint firing drills and certain grand assaults, one of which being purple indoor Shirokuro, where she has become the main hyper carry for most Sensei's teams, especially on Insane and Torment, as she takes less damage from their yellow attacks while absolutely shredding through the boss's health using her EX. which can be launched multiple times in a row if paired with buffers like Ryo, Hikari, etc., making one punning every difficulty including Torment possible, though you obviously need the appropriate units and a highly invested Nozomi to do so. She has also been brought into Purple Field Kaiten in order to take out the robot and rangers, being chosen as the main DPS unit despite her B affinity because there aren't exactly a lot of purple students who excel in field for global so far. Plus, interestingly, in phase 1, if positioned correctly in your team, she can deal damage to 2 rangers at once. Finally, her main use so far lies in Purple Tifaref, as she has become a must-have unit against this boss. Essentially, her primary role against this boss is to deal damage to Tiff as well as his cores when they become vulnerable. Plus, if there are any remaining laborers whenever she attacks the cores, she can help with dealing a bit of damage to them too, which can be extra helpful during his awakened state when all 3 cores are activated. Not only that, during the escape phase, when Tiff summons the obstacles to block your student's path, the EX will be absolutely required to destroy them since they are positioned in a straight line, and her EX is typically strong enough to take out most if not all of them. And in the final phase, she will once again be needed to deal massive damage and quickly take him out before time runs out. Also, her damage is boosted because it takes place indoors and she takes less damage from his yellow attack on floor 50 and above. Thus, Nozomi has become an essential and the #1 DPS unit for this boss, since she can help to effectively defeat him thanks to her very high damage output, while also dealing with his cores and the obstacles. And she is especially needed for the harder floors, where she is a must bring into your team. So overall, should you pull for Nozomi? Well, in my opinion, you can, because not only is she a limited unit who won't have a rerun until next year, but she will also greatly help you in a bunch of upcoming purple content, especially Tifaref. That said, you should probably prioritize getting Hikari over her, because again, the former is much more versatile as a supporter. Not to mention, Hikari is still really good without Nozomi. Like, you can pair her with other sonic damage dealers, but Nozomi becomes way less effective without Hikari. Plus, Nozomi requires a lot higher investment to be fully effective in harder endgame content. So, gameplay wise, I personally feel you should pull for Hikari first before going for Nozomi. On the other hand, you may possibly skip Nozomi if you prefer to just save for the 4.5 anniversary units. Specifically, Swimsuit Mika if you believe she will outclass Nozomi, and you want to just rely on our Gorilla for single target purple content outside of Tifaref. Or if you don't have enough funds for your own UE50 Nozomi and you prefer to just borrow her from your club/friends list. Not just that, if you've already used up all your Paroxenes to get Hikari and you don't have enough left, or if you get really unlucky and don't manage to pull either and you've run out of Paroxenes, or you don't have/only have enough to spark one, then sure, you may just skip her, though it is obviously your own choice who to pull or skip between them. But as always, if she is your waifu and you wanna enjoy the glowing sunset in a train with our cute and funny but mature Shupogaki, then go ahead and pull for her. Moving on, we have the new Highlander student who hates everything. It's Aoba. Holy shit, fellas. When she was first announced, we all thought she was just gonna be a shy, cute and funny girl, but no one expected her to harbor such hatred towards everything, except her senseis, as seen in her Momo talks and its titles. But weirdly, her misanthropy is one of the reasons I like her. Maybe cause it reminds me of who I used to be, so I relate to her, or perhaps it's my penchant to sympathize for those who are suffering like Aoba. But honestly, who can blame her for feeling so hopeless? She has to deal with Academy's dumb rules, the constant overtime at her job, as well as the twins being her supervisor. And I just want to give her a warm hug and tell her that everything will be okay. However, don't let her depressive personality distract you from her cuteness. Firstly, she looks adorable in her uniform. I'm a huge fan of that blue baggy jacket. It just enhances her cuteness. Plus, that yellow ribbon and that short skirt are parts of her design I like too. Not to mention, her cream soft hair in low twin tails is just too damn adorable. It's no wonder Rimukoro sensei got corrupted just as he was recovering from his Nia addiction. And Inky Archive made a whole video talking about why they love Aoba. Who can blame them? She's so damn cute. Finally, we have her L2D. And whoa! It is spicy cause she reveals what's underneath her uniform. A cute hot camisole that's tormenting my BINAH. Whoa, you smell so good, Aoba! I wanna lick your body with your camisole so bad. You can't tease Sensei like this. I will pin you down, you brat! It has also spawned a ton of fan art of Aoba being a yandere and dominating as senseis. And I really need the devs' explanation of why they made such a cinema L2D. So, what type of student is she? Well, Aoba is a well-fed sonic tank with red armor, whose terrain moods are B affinity in urban, C in field, and A indoors. She uses Shoes Bag and Amulet for her equipment, all of which improve her tanking capabilities. Now, is Aoba any good? Well, she is our first ever sonic tank, joining the plethora of red armored tanks in the game. And compared to them, she is mainly a defensive tank with pretty high attack, even having the second highest among the game's tanks. However, her HP stats is the lowest among the red armored tanks, plus she doesn't have any healing abilities like Aimi or Mine. Instead, she is primarily a self-repositioner thanks to her 3-cost EX skill. As with it, she relocates herself to a targeted location while dealing a tiny amount of damage to enemies she collides with while repositioning with its small 127% multiplier at level 5 skill. And once she finishes moving, she increases her own attack and attack speed by 28% and 67.3% respectively for a decent 22 seconds. Her self-repo is actually quite good, as the distance at which she moves is extremely far. In fact, her travel distance is the longest in the game at a whole 8 meters, though her EX's square radius is actually quite small at a 1x1 meter. Not to mention, she can also deal very tiny amounts of damage to any enemies her minecart connects with. However, if she hits any barriers or obstacles, she will immediately come to a stop, so combined with a small radius means you need to be careful on where you reposition her. The attack and especially the attack speed self buffs she gains are quite decent too, with the latter helping with faster sub-skill activation. More on this in a bit. Next, her basic skill increases her defense by 38.9% for a decent 32 seconds every 40 seconds. Improving her durability and efficiency as a defensive tank. Plus, while the initial 40-second proc time is quite long, there's only a short 8-second downtime for subsequent activations. Her sub-skill further increases her defense by 34.4% at max level skill for a decent 20 seconds every 12 normal attacks, which is welcome cause it further increases her tanking capabilities. Plus, this is where her EX's attack speed buff comes in handy, as she will be able to launch her AA faster, especially since she uses a shotty with 6 rounds per mag. Finally, both her enhanced and enhanced skill plus at UE40 increase her max HP, with these additional HP boosts being very useful since she has quite low HP, so this can be a huge help if you plan to bring her into content where the enemy hits really hard, though normally it's not necessary and 3 to 4 star is usually more than enough. Lastly, her UE50 upgrades her field combat power from C to A, which again isn't needed as her damage output doesn't matter, unless you really want the extra stats at this level. Overall, Aoba is a solid defensive tank, with her main appeal being her ability to reposition herself over a very long distance. So, where can she be used in? Well, as a red armored tank, Aoba could perhaps be used in content with enemies that have yellow attack, working as an additional tank option for an extra team if needed, since she'll be able to further resist their attacks. Protecting your team by allowing her to take aggro from the boss/minions, using her self-repo ability to throw herself in front of them. She can also help to shorten the time taken to enter the next phase in certain raids, resulting in a higher raid score cause less time is spent. This was seen in the very recent Cheese GA in JP, where some top teams used either her or Track Yuka in phase 1 to quickly jump near the gates in order to reduce their travel time, entering the next phase faster. Though the strat is mostly done to get a really high score, plus Cheese raid attack will be dangerous for Aoba unless you have her at a really high level / you're able to quickly take out the minions. However, her main use so far lies in Tifareth, having become an essential unit against both yellow and purple armored versions of this boss, since she can effectively deal with his mechanics. Simply put, when activated, TIF's blue core, the left one, will shoot a sticky bomb at the unit with the lowest attack range, detonating after 8 seconds. But if that student enters the core's protective field, it will explode immediately, destroying the field, while the red core, the middle one, also aims at the striker with the lowest attack range for 8 seconds, firing a microwave beam at them, dealing 2800% to them and other students, while also dealing some damage to TIF's own allies. Another thing to note is that the cores can damage each other with their own skills, increasing TIF's groggy gauge plus 100% of the damage taken by the cores is dealt to TIF. So Aoba has become a popular unit to deal with both the blue and red cores, as she essentially becomes a suicide bomber to damage the other cores with her repositioning ability. For one, they will always target her since she's usually the unit with the lowest attack range in the team. 2, when the blue core attaches the sticky bomb onto her, she can then either jump to the blue core to instantly activate the bomb, taking down its shield, allowing your other units to do more damage to it, or to another core and wait for it to detonate so that it can do damage to that core and its laborers. Meanwhile, for the red core, you'd move her to either the blue or yellow core when it's targeting her, so that when it fires its beam, it will also deal damage to the other core and their minions. Though of course, Aoba also gets hurt. Thus, as you can see, Aoba takes on sort of a kamikaze role in this raid. No wonder she's depressed, being used in most Sensei teams against either yellow or purple TIF, and she is preferred over another repo tank due to her ability to travel really far with her EX, allowing her to reach the cores easily, plus she takes less damage from his yellow attacks, as well as Aoba's EX being cheap at 3 cores. Not only that, in my opinion, while you could possibly get away without her on floor 74 and below, she's definitely much needed for the higher floors, plus she's a free welfare unit, so it's easier to get and build her. So all in all, should you farm for her? Well, in my opinion, if you wanna really take on TIFRF, then sure, you may farm for her 11s and get her up to either around 4-star or UE30, as these levels are usually enough even for the higher floors from what I've personally seen. But you could always try to go for UE40 if you want to, as the extra max HP boost will be helpful in ensuring her survivability even more, especially for floor 100 and above. However, the event's railroad minigame this time was kinda tedious, cause you need to connect and rotate the train tracks to make the perfect railroad. But you do get 40 Aoba 11s each from the first 6 tracks, so it's quite worth it. However, if you don't plan on taking on TIF too seriously or you don't care about this boss at all, then 3 stars is more than sufficient cause you want to at least unlock her sub skill. But if Aoba is your waifu and you wanna make her happy and get it done with her in her L2D, then go ahead and farm for her 11s as much as you want. And that's all for this week's review. Again, Hikari has been reviewed in a separate video, link will be in the pinned comment. Anyways, let me know who you're pulling for if you are. Good luck with your pulls, leave in the comments below your best feelings towards Nozomi and Aoba, and I'll see y'all in the next one.